do you want to say about some of the local colleges in town? It's been an interesting week for college athletics, for the powers that be. And again, you got to view everything looking at the forest instead of the tree in front of you. And we could get down a serious rabbit hole here. I think Ben and Woods, don't they have like a rabbit hole segment or something? Or Woods goes down a rabbit hole? I'm going to go down one right now with college athletics. So here's the news that happened this week. The College Football Playoff Committee decided to, which makes sense because of the fact that Washington State and Oregon State are in a two-team conference, and the Pac-12 is no longer considered a power conference. The College Football Playoff Committee decided to go from, instead of 6 conference champions making the college football playoff, they are only going to have 5 guaranteed conference champions make the playoff with 7 at-large bids. That's what they decided on. That wasn't the only proposal, though. The other proposal is there's thinking about a 14-team playoff already. Interesting. Forever, they used to say, we can't make any money on a playoff. Nobody wants to watch the playoff. Let's just stick with the bowl games. We like having writers pick our champion. We could never do a playoff. They told us for years. And before they even get to a 12-team playoff, they're going to come up with a 14-team playoff? I don't know. I don't necessarily know where this is going. I mean, I was in on expanding the playoff to 8 to 12 teams. Sounds good. I'm even in favor of 16. I don't mind that. But it's like, we're going to expand that already. We've even gone through it one time. And they're already looking, how early can we expand the 14 teams? Because the other proposal that the Big Ten and the SEC wanted, that nobody else voted on because they know it was ridiculous. So they got to find a way to get their money somehow. Was the proposal that the Big Ten and the SEC would both get 4 teams guaranteed in the 12-team playoff, which would leave 4 teams left for everybody else. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I know where this is going. The NCAA is obviously not part of this conversation, and they are no longer going to be part of any college athletic conversation. It seems like in the near future, they're pretty much worthless at this point. And all the conferences are now calling the shots themselves. And the most powerful conference is the SEC and the Big Ten. Not because they're good, but because they have the most fans. What does the most fans equal? Most eyeballs on a television. What does TV care about? How many people watch their product? They're the ones that give out the big contracts. The SEC and the Big Ten wants as much of that money as possible because they know they're supplying the most of the ratings. It's not because Nebraska is good at football. It's because Nebraska has the middle of the country that all are diehard Cornhusker fans for no reason because there's nothing to do in that part of the country. The Big Ten and the SEC get the biggest TV contracts. Therefore, they think they should get the biggest share of the TV money. You got players that want more money. They want to be considered employees. Fine, go ahead. I'm in favor of NIL. I'm not in favor of pay to play. I think you're going down a very slippery slope right now, college athletics. Not only in the players sprinting off a cliff that are going to impact the future of players of college athletics, but also the highest entities because they want the biggest contracts. If ESPN and Fox Sports give out the biggest contracts to the Big Ten and the SEC, which, by the way, these contracts are not as successful as they've been. They're not making as much money off of these because of the cord cutting, because of streaming, the direct to consumer. That's not necessarily the greatest business plan anymore. ESPN can't afford to pay all of these broadcast rights fees, especially not the direction they are going. They're going to have to pick and choose. And if they pick the SEC and the Big Ten, everybody else is going to drop down some more. Which means they're not getting as much funding for their athletic department. They're going to have to make some cuts. They got to pay the student athletes now, too. Again, I'm not against that. for NIL, but the pay for play is getting out of hand. And all of these schools, especially the ones in the Power Four that are going to try to keep pace with the SEC and the Big Ten, are going to start realizing they don't need the other sports aside from football and basketball. They'll keep the women's sports that they need for Title IX purposes, but they're going to start lopping off men's sports. And then when they have enough men's sports lopped off, they're going to start lopping off women's sports because they're going to want to chase that bag because that's what funds their athletic department. I don't really like the way where this is going right now, especially for schools like San Diego State and USD and UCSD who just jumped into D1. Are they going to be able to compete with the NIL of the big boys? I don't necessarily know if that's true. Are they going to make their own league that's just scholarship only? Is that league going to get as much money in the TV contracts? Are people going to care about that league? San Diego State already has a problem trying to get players, or should I say people in the seats for their football games. If they're at a different level than all the other schools because they're not participating in the highest level, are people going to care as much? I need way more time for that subject. We'll talk more.